Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we've got a special guest to talk about everything that's been happening in the world of crypto, and we do mean all around the world. Michael's one of our OG members from our premium group and followers from way back in the day, and he's doing some really exciting stuff with the Balinese government, as well as in the world of crypto research. And we're actually partnering up as part of our expansion plans and launching our new research platform and all that sort of stuff. So, welcome to the channel, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's kind of a surreal experience to be here after watching it so much, but yeah, good to be here.
Oh, I think it's a well-deserved spot when you reached out to me and started telling me about everything that you've been doing and everything that's happening in the world of Bali. And I guess one of the broader themes we've been talking about is this transition from west to east in terms of the open arms approach to crypto and innovation, tax, all that sort of stuff. We're really seeing that transition, and got some great insights that we'll go over today. So I guess, do you want to give people a bit of the rundown into how you got into crypto and everything that's led you to where you are now with all the great stuff you're doing?
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a journey, as I'm sure most people who are still in the space have had. But I first found out about Bitcoin sometime in 2017, just before the last cycle. I found a documentary which I've never been able to find again. So go figure, that explained all about Bitcoin. I thought that seemed pretty cool. I bought the top of the 17 cycle and got dumped on like everybody else. Um, and then just I stuck with it mostly because I found your channel, found Nuggets News, and I learned all about crypto that way. Got right into the Ethereum space, stuck around for DeFi summer, and like sort of did okay for that next sort of cycle. But then I realized that that entrepreneurial spirit kicks in, and I wanted to actually sort of try and build something in the space as well.
Fantastic. And so, when did you actually first move over to Indonesia and get involved with Bali? And do you want to maybe explain for people what Republic Rupiah is and everything you're doing now?
Yeah, so I was already working over in Indonesia. I moved over there in 2018, and I'd had a business. I was in education previously. I do a lot of work for universities, Australian universities, and trying to forge relationships over in Asia. So I was already in Indonesia, living there with my wife. And then we all know that 2020 happened and everything around there, and that all shut down, and they went my business. And so I already had a few staff and a few local guys that I was working with, and we thought, well, let's see what's out there in the blockchain scene in Indonesia. And there was nothing. There was maybe one good YouTube channel, and there was a bunch of like sort of Binance Shill token meme coin, buy this, buy this, buy this sort of type channels. And so we thought, well, let's just start making content in Indonesian and see what happens. And within like a couple of months, it exploded. We just started going down CoinGecko and making videos explaining what each project was in Indonesian. And yeah, inside a year, had 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're now the fastest growing blockchain community in Indonesia. We're the biggest research platform in Indonesia. We've got 17 staff. And yeah, so we're a prominent player in the blockchain space now in Indonesia.
Yeah, and you've surpassed Nuggets News in terms of subscribers. So congratulations! But super interesting to hear that doing it in Indonesia, and I'm sure there's other regions of the world that we kind of forget that we might be that cycle ahead of people. Some countries still don't have good guides on what is Bitcoin or videos or documentaries or anything in their native languages. So maybe that's something else that we'll go into after we've partnered up and whatnot and look to venture into other regions and other languages. But interesting what you're talking about with COVID and how tourism was the biggest sector of the economy over there. And I'm going to talk about those conversations that you had with government and what that led to in terms of them going after crypto and blockchain as a new sector.
Yeah, so Bali specifically, most Aussies would know it, and they would know that it's obviously one of Australia's major tourist destinations. But Bali is like a province of Indonesia, like a state, I guess you could say. And Jakarta, being the capital, has a population bigger than New York, and so most Aussies wouldn't realize that there's this monster country that just sits off the coast of Darwin. Um, but Bali's a unique place because they make a lot more money because of the tourism dollars that come in. And so a lot of people from other parts of Indonesia will come and work over in Bali because they get sort of double the wages. The kind of the parallel that we drew is it would kind of like what it was like for an Aussie to go work in the mines back in the day. You'd get double the money for the same job that you'd work.
Yeah.
Um, But without tourism, they're done. They're just back to being another province of Indonesia. And so they put out an initiative to try and find a second industry that wouldn't hamstring them if something like this happened again. And they reached out to a guy who I subsequently met, who's a Balinese guy, who effectively talked them into making blockchain to be their second biggest industry. And so the Balinese government, particularly the Denpasar government, which is the capital of Bali, put out this 5-year tender. And their whole goal now is to make blockchain to be their second biggest industry after tourism.
Yeah, fantastic. And so I believe we're talking that the Balinese government also gave you a building. Was it an old university or TAFE? And that's for, having conventions and all the local innovation as well. Do you want to explain a bit more about that, how that came about?
Yeah, so as part of that deal, that arrangement to try and support the infrastructure, they gave this building, which is a fairly new building. It's got a 500-seat auditorium, an 80-seat movie theater, about 15 classrooms. It's got an art gallery in it, which is now an NFT art gallery, and that was given to be the Bali Blockchain Center. And so yeah, now there's a whole series of layer ones who are set up in there. There's a whole bunch of different dApps that are being built out of there, and they get infrastructure support from the Denpasar government.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see, and you've already told me about a few conventions that you want me to hop over for and whatnot. And I believe there's also some recent tax changes, so they've really gone hard about, hey, we want the innovation here, we want the money here, and rather than what we're seeing in the US at the moment, I know just today at time of recording, they've gone after Binance again. So a very different approach, and do you get that feel and the confidence from the projects and the support of the government at your back?
Yeah, everything's still really early. And obviously, the federal government over there still controls what regulation looks like at the end of the day. So they still can't use crypto tokens for payment. But that will change because they've got a highly digitized payment economy. Like everyone's got smart wallets for everything and they're paying for points and everything. But because crypto was this big, scary word, they kind of said no until we understand it. But they've got quite favorable tax laws, so on profits from trading. And so a lot of the regulation has still, it's still being morphed, it's still being formed. But it's not hostile, it's not aggressive. They're just making sure everything's happening very responsibly and maybe a little slow. But the idea is that to grow an industry, and they're being very accommodating for that.
Yeah, that was probably one of the only, I guess, negative pieces of news that we've seen recently from there. They were saying they're going to, I believe it was crack down on tourists spending crypto in Bali. And the way I read that or interpreted it was more that, hey, like we don't mind if you cash out or take profits and have a local account, but we want people spending rupiah rather than just at this stage, if everyone was to come over and Bitcoin or ETH or stablecoins were to become like the local currency, they don't want that just yet. That's kind of the way I interpret it. Is that right? Or
Yeah, still trying to figure out exactly where things sit as far as payments, and obviously wanting the local currency to still hold its relevance. And so that's been the major pushback so far. And because Bali, and we'll talk about this probably in a minute, but there's so many foreigners that are there that have set up shop there, and they just want to making sure that if you're going to be in the country, that you're still interacting with the local economy, not having some sort of sub economy where everyone operates off of Bitcoin and stable coins, but you're actually still, making sure that local vendors are still making income, and it's not just we've got this digital economy of people who are physically domiciled in Bali.
yeah, I think that's probably the right way to phrase it as well. That for a lot of countries that they still want their local currency to be relevant for all the checks and balances that they need to do. Whereas the extreme example is often El Salvador, where it's, hey, Bitcoin's legal tender. Whether or not, I don't know if you've got any thoughts. I still think we'll probably see a few more countries in the near future as part of this next cycle that'll become a bit of a catalyst for Bitcoin. Have you heard anything, or do you believe in that? Or
I have actually. Yeah, I've heard there's talks of like Tonga, like places like some of the other island, like Pacific Islands, getting involved. Places that already have got a weaker currency, I guess. But even one of the governors of one of the provinces in Indonesia, in another part of Indonesia, was on stage at Bitcoin Miami talking about how they want people to come and innovate. They want them to come and bring over their renewable energy equipment, come and set up shop and tap into Indonesia's grid, because they've got enough renewable energy to power the country 2 times over, but they're only harvesting about 15% of it. Like, he was effectively begging for investment to come over. because most of the Indonesian government is funded by foreign investment, not necessarily by local tax revenue. And so, yeah, the fact that you've got a governor who is actually a presidential candidate for the next election next year saying, come, we want you here. We're Bitcoin friendly. We want you to come and tap our volcanoes and do what you're doing in El Salvador. It's pretty positive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always exciting to hear about mining. And another thing that often gets attacked or is being attacked, they're talking about heavier taxes and all that in the US. And again, here we go. Here's an example of this other country that's got a huge population saying, "Hey, we've got some excess renewable energy. You're happy to come here." So we'll continue to see that, and this is the exact thing we've been talking about, that shift from west to east. Before we move on, any final thoughts on anything we've discussed? But we'll get into some of the research stuff you're doing.
Yeah, I think the last one is probably there's almost two economies in Bali particular. That's where I'm set up. I'm set up just like in the heart of Bali there. And there's two economies happening because you've got the local economy, which is what the Bali Blockchain Center is supporting. But there's a whole network of foreigners that are there. There's a huge amount of Europeans, a huge amount of Russians, a huge amount of Americans, and obviously a lot of Aussies who've all set up businesses there and are hiring local talent. And so it's probably one of the biggest hotspots in the region right now. If you're in the blockchain scene, there's events on every other night. There's like specialized blockchain Web3 workspaces, and like not just one or two of them, but like a lot of them. And so if you're in the space and you're trying to find people to come and work in a team or trying to build out your project, it's an incredible place. Like just for such a condensed, small geographical area, there's a huge amount of people working in blockchain.
Fantastic. Well, that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next. And as I mentioned before, Michael and his team, local talent that he sourced, we met them the other day. We're partnering up to expand our research team, and we can translate ours into Indonesian. We're going to translate a lot of their research into English again for our platform and whatnot. We met the guys, the head researchers. They're all very well spoken with English, as you said, so that local talent and even the coders that we've got doing and all that. So do you want to maybe talk about how you found all them and the sort of research you've been doing for YouTube for free and premium stuff that we're planning on doing together and whatnot?
Yeah, so because the YouTube channel took off so quickly, we instantly started getting flooded by people coming into the community wanting to get involved. And so we had one core presenter who we started with initially, but then that expanded. We found a couple of other guys who were, writing white paper explanations online and said, "Hey, would you like to do this as a job?" And so we quickly were able to attract a lot of talent that came in. And we've got a really great core team of researchers now who originally, when it was just me and my co-founder, we would be trying to keep across everything. But now, yeah, we've got a big engine in an office. Night and day, they're all across everything. We've got people who are specializing in NFTs, people who are specializing in different blockchains, just making sure that the Indonesians are not disadvantaged in any way just because they don't speak English, but they're getting it in real time, just like everybody else.
Awesome. And how big's that team now, and growing still, or?
Yeah, we paused for a little bit as we went through the bear market. We're going through the bear market. We topped out at about 17. We're down to probably, I think, 13 at the moment with a couple of part-timers. But, we've got a team of video editors. We've got a team of researchers, and we've got a team of sort of social media presenters that are across all the different Indonesian Telegram groups, and just trying to keep a finger on the pulse of everything that's happening, across the country.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's what I found since I started working again 12 months ago and doing the premium group again. You can keep your finger on the main trends, and we've had some luck in the layer 2 space and, picking general tops and bottoms with Bitcoin ETH price. But now that we've got so many different layer 1s and so many different economies and NFTs, it's just impossible to be in the weeds of all the Telegram groups and Discords and reading all the white papers. So yeah, I guess the timing was right to start expanding again. So super excited. And I guess anything that you're excited about in general, any themes for the next cycle?
Yeah. I think the thing that was interesting for us is because I myself personally, I got into this space because of Nuggets News and having that central hub of research. I remember back in the early days, I think I made my first, multiplier off of synthetics, just getting in on synthetics early. And that was something that I got from the original Nuggets News platform. And so you can see that model where if you got a job or you're you got a family, and you don't have the time to be able to keep across everything. Normally in this space, you'll hear about something and you'll think, okay, I've never heard of that before, but I'm too busy focusing on these other 10 projects that I'm focusing on. Before you realize, hang on, that thing I did hear about is now already 5x and I've kind of missed it. And so that's where I think having a platform like ours and like Nuggets News, where you've got a central hub of people who are filtering what you need to be paying attention to, no one can commit that type of time. And so if you can, build a community, which is what we're doing and what you've done, it saves everybody the opportunity to be able to make sure they don't missing out on stuff that they shouldn't be missing out on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps these days that there's a lot of OGs like yourself that have been through a cycle that are sort of dropping tips. And that's another thing I guess we want to do with our community, have a bit of a place where people can say, hey, I think this is a hidden gem, or I think I found this, and drop it to the research team. And then it turns into a write-up and a research piece a lot quicker. So almost decentralizing the research process, which is super exciting.
Well, that's what we hope to do. That's why we reached out to Nuggets News. Like, one, not just because, I learned blockchain from Nuggets News, but also if you've got the community and we're all interacting together, and then you've got full-timers who can then think, okay, the community's done a bit of research here. What else can we find on here? And then spit something out to summarize it. I mean, that's, only better for all of us.
Yeah, fantastic. So any final thoughts on anything over there in Bali, Indonesia, or else other regions around the globe, things you've heard before we maybe talk about the new platform a little bit more?
Yeah, so Southeast Asia in general is quite interesting right now. We see a lot of stuff happening out of Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam specifically. And there's a lot of conferences that are happening all over the place. Polkadot themselves have just set up a hub in Bali. So they've got an official presence now in the Bali Blockchain Center. And they're really focusing on trying to build out those particular platforms. There's a whole bunch of layer ones who are Southeast Asian built who are starting to gain traction. And the real thing that's being pushed right now is like real world assets, sort of tokenizing things and putting them on the blockchain. And I really think that some of these Southeast Asian countries, which don't allow foreign ownership, are going to be some of the first to really pop, because that's going to allow like people who hold an Aussie passport like myself to be able to get proper like real estate exposure to emerging markets, to be able to get into their stock markets as like even their stock markets start getting put on chain and tokenized, and all that's coming. There's already heaps of chatter about it. I already know of a tower in Malaysia that's been tokenized. There's already a bunch of luxury villas in Bali that have been tokenized. And so, yeah, if anyone, we're kind of lucky in this space because we're same time zone. So,
yeah, we did a piece on real world assets a few months ago, and some of those projects have already done, hundreds of millions of dollars of government bonds or real estate or whatnot, shares, as you said, already tokenized it, and still relatively small market caps. So that theme hasn't really taken off yet, but I definitely think that's one to watch for the next sector, 100%.
Yeah,
Cool.
It'll be the next one. That's what I'm watching.
Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about the research platform. So we want to, I guess, get back to what we used to have in terms of some example portfolios, the hidden gems, the research center, maybe an area for people to ask or drop information and say, hey, we think this is a hidden gem, or request a coin to research, and we'll give that to the team. Any other features that you're excited about in terms of the platform?
Yeah, I think looking at airdrops as well. Like I know that we've got a huge community that just airdrop hunt, and then not only hunt, but then teach people what they need to be doing to be able to make sure that they qualify. Because, there's been like tens of thousands of dollars made by people just from doing legwork, essentially.
Yeah. And NFTs is probably the other one that's, again, because there's so many these days, that's something that you guys, or one of your head researchers, specializes in.
Yeah, we call him our head nerd. He's it's like that pop culture, that video game culture. It's all merged over straight into NFTs and NFT communities. And we've got one guy he's right down that rabbit hole, and he makes sure that he points us in the right direction of everything happening there. That's been something that I've been slow to uptake as well, but that's the beauty of the team, is that we can make sure that we're across everything.
Yeah, and Bitcoin, ordinals and stamps and all that stuff taking off on Bitcoin now as well is probably another. I think Bitcoin DeFi was one of the trends that we picked last year, and it's starting to take off as well. But I guess in summary, guys, just if you want to check out the new platform, we're pretty ready to launch any day now in terms of our alpha behind the scenes. So for now, if you visit nuggetsnews.com.au, it'll still be the old website and the manual sign up process. We are going to launch a special for those of you that are still watching at this stage. We're going to have a bit of a lifetime membership push as a bit of a thank you and a reward for everyone signing up early. But we might cap that platform like we've said before. We're just going to see how it all goes. But hopefully in the next few weeks, the payment side of signing up and everything will be fully automated. You'll log in, create an account, and have all that research as we used to have in our research platform. So, is that roughly the time frame you're thinking as well, Michael?
Yeah, it'll be definitely. I've seen behind the scenes of it already. So the Nuggets news site will be back out in the next week or so probably, and so it's be clean interface. It'll be really interactive, and I guess it just allow everyone to have that infinity base of knowledge that they can try and go and make sure that they find what they're looking for.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'll put all the links down below to Michael's socials, to Republic Rupiah, the links to the our website and whatnot. But we might try and do a monthly catch up as well and just talk about news and what's been happening over there. And thanks so much for joining us, Michael, and running us through everything.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Cheers.